The Senate will come to order. Good afternoon. We are on we are on the second agenda, order business number 4, reports of committee.
Madam President, Committee on Finance to which is refer to Senate Bill number 393 as its same under consideration. Begs report, same back to recommendation, amended to pass as amended. Signed, Senator Chris Brooks, Chair. End of reports.
Thank you. Order of business number 6, messages from the Assembly.
Assembly Chamber, Carson City, May 31st, 2021. To the Honorable Senate, I have the honor to inform Your Honor about the Assembly on this day passed Senate Bill number 297 and passed as amended Assembly Bill 495, and Assembly amended and passed as amended a variety of Senate bills, and respectfully ask your body to concur in those amendments which are listed on your agenda. Also, I have the honor to inform Your Honor about the Assembly on this day respectfully refused to recede from its action on Senate Bill 369, and it has appointed Assemblyman Yeager Wynn Kasama as a conference committee to meet with the Select Committee of the Senate. Also, a message that was just added to the very end of this. To the Honorable Senate, I have the honor to inform Your Honor body the Assembly on this day adopted the report of the Conference Committee concerning Assembly Bill number 440. Signed, Carol Ayala-Sala as Assistant Chief Clerk of the Assembly. End of messages.
Thank you. Order of business number 9, motions, resolutions, and notices. Senator Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that for the remainder of the 81st legislative session, all necessary rules be suspended, and that all measures that have been passed or adopted by the Senate be immediately transmitted to the Assembly.
Thank you. You have heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Senator Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to take Senate Bill 463 and Assembly Bills 219, 241, 280, 349, 387, 441, and 492 from their position on the general file and place them at the bottom of the general file.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Senator Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to take Assembly Bill 321 from its place on general file and place it at the top of general file for this second agenda.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. The following bills are ready to be immediately transmitted to the Assembly. Assembly Bills number 126, 189, 196, 220, 247, 256, 262, 357, 383, 411, 416, 432, 445, 489. Once these bills have been transmitted to the Assembly, the Senate no longer has the ability to take any further action.
And that concludes order business number 9.
Thank you. Order of business number 10. Introduction, first reading, and reference.
Assembly Bill number 495, introduced by Senate Committee on Ways and Means, revises provisions related to governmental financial administration. End of bill.
Thank you. Senator Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that all necessary rules be suspended. Reading so far had considered first reading, rules further suspended, and that Assembly Bill number 495 be declared an emergency measure under the Constitution and placed on third reading for final passage this legislative day, after Assembly Bill 321.
Okay. Thank you. Senator Cannizzaro has moved to that all necessary rules be suspended. Reading so far had considered first reading, rules further suspended, and that the Assembly Bill number 495 be declared an emergency measure under the Constitution and placed on third reading for final passage this legislative day after Assembly Bill number 321. Are there any remarks, Senator Cannizzaro?
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill number 495 relates to various pieces regarding the taxation of mines and other educational funding pieces, and is something that we do need to consider and move along as we are nearing the very end of this legislative session.
Did you guys hear that? We're near the end. All right. Further remarks? All right. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
That concludes order business number 10.
Thank you. Order of business 13, third reading, general file.
Assembly Bill number 321, introduced by Assemblyman Frierson and Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson, revises provisions relating to elections. People, State of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
I have amendment number 829, proposed by Senator Settlemeyer.
Thank you. Senator Settlemeyer.
Thank you, Madam President. I don't see it up on the board. It was a motion to waive the reading of the amendment.
Thank you. If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Settlemyre.
Thank you, Madam President. Move to adopt amendment number, that's my other problem. Amendment number 829 to Assembly Bill 321.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Are there any remarks? Senator Settlemyre.
Thank you, Madam President. The concept of this amendment is to just create parity within all the constitutional officers. Some constitutional officers actually have the ability to raise funds during a legislative session. They're not under blackout. I find that to be improper, especially when some of these individuals actually have far more bill drafts than some of the other ones that actually do have a blackout period. So in that respect, the amendment merely seeks to make sure that all constitutional officers must obey the blackout period in the Nevada Legislature and not raise funds during said timeframe.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion fails. And roll call. Don't I need people? I got 3. Hardy, Hammond, and Pickard. Thank you. Madam Secretary, will you open the roll? Settlemyre, Pickard, and Hammond. Settlemyre, Hardy, and Pickard. Yes. Guys, roll is open. Are you guys voting? Okay. Okay. The AB 321 is 10 in favor, 11 against. The motion fails. Are there any further amendments to the bill?
Yes, I have amendment number 839, proposed by Senator Cannizzaro.
Senator Cannizzaro?
Thank you, Madam President. I move to dispense with the reading of the amendment.
Thank you. If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to adopt, a Senate Amendment number 839 to Assembly Bill number 321.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Are there any remarks? Senator Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate Amendment number 839 to Assembly Bill number 321 provides that notice of a withdrawal of a petition for initiative that opposes a statute or amendment to a statute must be submitted to the Secretary of State not later than 90 days before an election at which the question of approval or disapproval of the initiative will appear on the ballot, that a petition for initiative that proposes an amendment to the Constitution must be submitted to the Secretary of State not later than 90 days before the first election at which the question of approval or disapproval of the initiative will appear on the ballot, or a petition for referendum must be submitted to the Secretary of State not later than 90 days before the election at which the question of approval or disapproval of the referendum will appear on the ballot, and this would provide for the withdrawal of those.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Are there any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Assembly Bill 321, ready for final action.
Assembly Number 321, introduced by Senator Frierson and Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson, revises provisions relating to elections of the people of the state of Nevada represented in the Senate Assembly do enact as follows: Section 1 through Section 92, subsection 3, end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks. Senator Cannizzaro. Or who's remarking on 321, guys?
Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Brooks.
Assembly Bill 321, as amended, makes various changes to Nevada's election statutes. The bill replaces existing law concerning ballots for absentee voters, mailing precincts, and mail ballots with new provisions that require mail ballots for all elections. An opt-out provision is available for any active voter who prefers to not use the mail ballot. Existing processes and procedures are retained with certain modifications for voting as well as for the return, verification, and counting of all mail ballots. The bill includes general fund appropriations of $6,286,844 in FY 2022 and $5,998,138 $5,009,098,138 in FY 2023 for the cost of ballot stock, postage, and postcard notifications. The bill requires a minimum number of polling locations based on the size of the county for early voting and for election day voting, and ballot drop boxes must be provided at all early voting and election day polling sites. A Category E felony is established if anyone other than a city or county clerk provides a ballot drop box. Further, Indian reservations and Indian colonies may request a polling place, a ballot drop box, or both. The measure provides procedures for and specifically authorizes the use of manual or electronic signature verification. In addition, standards are established for periodic testing of the accuracy of signature verification devices. Audit reports concerning these devices are required and must be collected and maintained by local election officials. Local election officials are required at least annually to complete an approved class on forensic signature verification. Procedures are established by county or city clerks to verify the identity of a voter if necessary. The deadline by which a voter can either provide or confirm a missing or questionable signature is reduced from 9 days to the 6th day following the election. Automatic voter registration statutes are clarified by specifying that a voter who has been registered to vote by Department of Motor Vehicles and who has produced the required documents at that time is not required to show proof of identity or residency when voting for the first time in a federal election. The bill also requires the appointment of a bipartisan counting board and specifies that the board must complete the count of all mail ballots on or before the 7th day following the election. The deadline for a city or county clerk to receive a ballot is shortened from 7 days to 4 days following the election. The Secretary of State and the State Registrar of Vital Statistics are required to make comparisons at least monthly of the statewide voter registration list with records concerning the death of residents. Finally, confidentiality protections concerning personal information are extended to certain election officials upon their request. In addition, these individuals are authorized to ask for their driver's license or state identification card contain a substitute address to use in place of their physical address. The bill is effective upon passage and approval for the purposes of adopting regulations and performing other preparatory administrative tasks, and on January 1st, 2022, for all other purposes.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the secretary will open the roll. All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 321 is 12 in favor, 9 against. The bill, having received a constitutional majority, is ordered passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 495, introduced by Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, to revise its provisions within governmental financial administration. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1 to Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 63, subsection 2, end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Brooks.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 495, as amended, provides for the imposition, administration, and payment of an excise tax on the gross proceeds of profitable gold or silver mining companies that report Nevada gross revenue greater than $20 million annually. The revenue from this new mining excise tax would be temporarily deposited in the State General Fund for the 2021-23 biennium, and then would be deposited in the State Education Fund beginning on July 1st, 2023. The measure also provides that beginning on July 1st, 2023, the portion of the tax on net proceeds of minerals that is currently deposited in the State General Fund will instead be deposited in the State Education Fund. Assembly Bill 495, as amended, also provides $200 million from the state's allocation of federal coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds to the Nevada Department of Education for grants to school districts to be used to augment certain programs implemented to address the impacts of learning loss experienced as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and $15 million from the state's allocation of federal coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds to the State Public Charter School Authority for grants to charter schools to be used to augment certain programs implemented to address the impacts of learning loss experienced as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. It also provides for an addition of $4.745 million in tax credits for the Educational Choice Scholarship Tax Credits Program, also known as the Opportunity Scholarship Program. General fund appropriations of $50,895 in FY 2022 and $104,354 in FY 2023 for the Division of Healthcare Financing and Policy for Personal Care Services, and Assembly Bill 495 also appropriates $600,000 in each fiscal year of the 2021-23 biennium for the Silver State Opportunity Grant Program. It directs the Commission on School Funding to investigate sources of revenue to fund public education and requires the Commission to submit a report to the Governor and the Director of the Legislative Council Bureau for transmission to the 2023 Legislature. Excuse me. It directs the Legislative Committee on Education to conduct a study during the 2021-2022 interim concerning the composition of school boards of trustees in this state. Section 45, 51, and 56 of Assembly Bill 495, as amended, become effective on July 1st, 2023, and all other sections become effective on July 1st, 2021.
Thank you. Further remarks, Senator Kiefer.
Thank you, Madam President. The bill before us tonight is a compromise. It is the art of legislating in a single bill. This has items in it that I really like, items in it that I really don't like. But in the end, this bill is going to support the children of our state in their education. And for that reason, I'm going to be proud to support it. The additional funding that is going to be coming into Nevada through this new tax on mining will be directed in subsequent biennium directly to the State Education Fund to support the new pupil-centered funding plan. And that is a significant step forward for fulfilling the promise that we made when we originally passed that bill last session. It will additionally support traditional public schools as well as charter schools, school choice for families in this state, college scholarships for low-income Nevadans who are going to go to community college, sometimes for the first time in their family's history. And while there are plenty of reasons that I could point to vote against this bill, I think the benefits far outweigh the drawbacks. And when you get to this place, I think it's important to try to find a way to say yes to help people. And that's what this bill does. Happy to vote yes today.
Thank you. Senator Severs-Gansert.
Thank you, Madam President. I appreciate the comments of my colleague from District 16, and I know we had good news earlier in the session with the Economic Forum identifying more money, much of which we put into education. This bill will help boost education even more, and I appreciate that mining came forward with this solution. And I also think when you look at education, you have to look across the spectrum of our public schools and our private schools. And this bill will allow public schools to get a significant boost, whether they are your traditional public school or your charter schools. And a lot of times we hear that charter schools don't take care of the individuals, the students who are in low-income areas. And this bill will significantly help that, will help Title I schools. And then also children who need choice, whether they have a disability, whether the school where they are doesn't fit, whether they're in a certain zip code and they don't have a school that is a good option for them. Being able to boost opportunity scholarships and also allow more students is extremely important. So I appreciate this measure and we'll be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Pickard.
Thank you, Madam Chair, or Madam President. I wasn't going to actually speak on this, but I think I probably should. Because the one thing that I don't like about this bill most of all is that we had special interests using the IP process in order to put pressure on us. They made promises to voters to give them some input, and this bill was brought in order to try to take that away, and that concerns me. It also concerns me how the special interests tend to drive this body more than we do. That said, I agree with my colleague from Senate District 16 in that there's enough good in this bill to make it something worth supporting. I do believe that the industry that has stepped up, they did so under duress, but they did it, and they're going to be paying to education. And as I said some 9 months ago, 10 months ago, I support additional money for education. So I will be supporting this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise in support of Assembly Bill 495. You know, gosh, almost a year ago, I think we began having, or more than a year ago, there was some conversations about not only how do we start to invest in education here in the state, but how do we bring people together in order to do that? And I think that this bill is absolutely a culmination of those conversations. I have to thank the advocacy and work that has been done on this from so many people who really did come together to put this in a place where I think we can say yet again that we are moving the ball forward with respect to education funding here in the state. My colleague, the Speaker of the Assembly, the Governor and the Governor's office, my colleague from Senate District 3, which I always want to say he's from a different number, but it's Senate District 3, as well as partners in the community, the mining industry, our teachers, and education advocates, our business community, have come together with something that I think says that we do believe in funding education. You know, I was born and raised here in Nevada, and I know I've said this many times, and I'm sure everybody here is very sick of hearing it, but my parents didn't have an education. And for a kid like me to have received an education because people cared about kids like me makes the difference in the opportunities you have in life, in what you're able to achieve, and we owe that to every kid in this state. And we owe that to them in a way that we should be able to come to the table, just like has happened with this piece of legislation, and find solutions. And they might not be perfect, and they might not be exactly what individually, if we crafted our own solution to every problem, it would be. But I think my colleague from Reno said it best. This is legislation, and this is the art of legislating, that you find ways to come together for an agreement that benefits the greater good, and in this instance, it is education funding. And that's something that I am passionate about. It is something that I think we have done here in this body a number of times to take steps to invest in education. I am very proud that we're talking about money going to the pupil-centered funding formula, which some of my termed-out colleagues and also some who are terming out as of the end of today have worked very hard to make a reality here in the state. And so I urge my colleagues to support this measure because at the end of the day, this is really all about the students who are going to benefit and the successes that we are going to be able to get for them as a result of believing in them, investing in them, and for this public school kid who believed in education and believed it was a pathway to better opportunity. I'm definitely grateful to see this and will be supporting the measure. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Senator Gokachia.
Thank you, Madam President, and I rise in opposition to Senate Bill 495. I'm really concerned a couple of things, and I know the industry willingly came forward and supports this measure. But I am concerned as we move down the road, they will again be invited to the table. And I was really pushing for some language in the bill that in the event there is an increase in the net proceeds, that they would at least be able to recover some of the credit from this business excise tax against the net proceeds tax that I believe is going to continue to climb. So with that, I think this is unfair to ask any one industry to come to the plate, and that's what we've done in this body and in this building. And education needs to be borne by all of us, not one single industry. I think they were forced to be here and forced to support this bill, so I'm asking you, please oppose it.
Thank you. Senator Hammond.
Thank you, Madam President. It goes without saying that the process to get to this vote was a rocky one. Had it been easy, we would not be discussing this on the final day of the 81st legislative session. Too often, we have concerned ourselves with what is right or left in some cases instead of what is right or wrong. I ran for office as a high school teacher with one message: the betterment of education in Nevada. I believe that making this world a better place for students is the most worthy of goals and the very foundation of the sacred trust placed in us as elected representatives of the people. I've taken a lot of votes here in this chamber, so extraordinarily difficult, some very easy. Some of them came in the face of unbelievable pressure from outside interest groups and disaffected third parties. So let me be blunt when I say, sometimes when they put that pressure on us, I don't care. I'd say this to any of my friends, colleagues in this chamber who made education as a part of their campaign, their message to the people that they wished to represent, that education was a key component of their priorities. I know the pressure that comes on us, but sometimes I don't care about the pressure. It's what is right. Voting for this bill is important to me because even if it helps just one child read at the appropriate age, even if it helps one child get a lunch, even if it helps a parent or a child decide what school is best for them, his or her, or even if it provides funding for just one more teacher, it is, in the end, worth it. I'm not here to campaign for another office, and I'm indebted to no man and to only one woman am I indebted to. Some of you guys get that. I cast this vote as a father of school-age children, as a former public school teacher, and most importantly, as a Nevadan who wants to get old here and see his children be successful here. We, as a body, we disagree a lot. That's democracy. It wouldn't work if we agreed on each and every bill, and it certainly wouldn't be as fun for our friends in the press gallery. And while I don't expect the chorus of naysayers who don't even bother to read the legislation to keep their opinions to themselves, I will be voting yes. For all of our state students, I urge my colleagues to join me, because even if it's only one student, you'll change their life without ever even knowing it, and that's worth it. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Dennis.
Thank you, Madam President. It's no secret that in the 17 years that I've been in the legislature, I came here to make education better, and probably most of us campaigned on those things. It's already been mentioned. One of the things I realized early on was that we needed to fund education at the level that would help us to be successful. And we've made a few steps as we've come along in that. I'm a product of the education system here in Nevada. My children are, and now my grandchildren are. And I think this has already been mentioned, is a step. We've got many more steps that we've got to do, but we're going in the right direction. I think we're showing that we really are committed to our children. 2 years ago, we passed the People-Centered Funding Plan to say that we really care about our kids, that we care about each one of them individually and what their needs are. And we have to, the next step is that we have to be able to fund that at the levels that allow us to get there. And this bill is one step in that direction. I appreciate those that have stepped up to show their commitment to education by offering to be part of this. And so I would urge support. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise in opposition to AB 495. I also have to say I resent the implications that if anybody doesn't support this, that we're somehow against the children. You know, if you go back and look at the history of the tax increases in Nevada, Kenny Gwynn, 2003, huge fight, massive billion-dollar increase for education. Brian Sandoval, 2015, massive tax increase in Nevada for education. Now, if we really truly want to make education better, why have we gone all the way from 50th to 48 after these huge, massive influxes of money? We had a bill earlier today about auditing the Nevada system of higher ed. Just totally support it. Go back to Kenny Gwynn's speech and Brian Sandoval's speech, where they promised metrics, accountability, and all these programs are going to be carefully monitored to see if, in fact, the monies that we are investing are actually benefiting the very children that we're talking about here. So, you know, the idea that we're fortunate, I have 20 grandchildren, almost all of them are right here in Nevada, and most of them will attend the public schools. All 8 of my children attended public schools, at least for a significant window of time. So the idea that, if you don't support this big, huge tax increase, then you're against children really is offensive, because a lot of us not only support children, we even support taxes for the school system, but we don't want to just randomly throw money at it like we've clearly been doing for at least 2 decades with limited, if any, accountability. The other real huge concern I have, there have been negotiations behind the scenes. The teachers' union aggressively pushed to have an initiative petition, at least 2 of them, on the ballot. And by the Constitution, they have already had that done. That should be on the next ballot. Now, if we really want to look at who doesn't pay their fair share, and by the way, I agree with my colleague from Eureka, the mining industry is essentially blackmailed and with a gun to their head and forced to agree to this arrangement. But going back to the fantastic speeches that used to occur in this very chamber from none other than our former Senator Joe Neal, what was his whole push? He recognized that the gaming industry was the one that in fact had paid a minimal amount compared to the amount they pay in other areas. And that is where the real shortage in public education funding has been coming from. So, Russell Long made the famous saying, don't tax you, don't tax me, tax the guy behind the tree. That's how mining is. The reality is that mining, in fact, all but a handful of us in this room, the people that are going to pay this tax, they are not our constituents. They are mine, but it's very easy to tax people that actually are not even in your district. And so this type of taxation, as our colleague from Eureka correctly pointed out, is unfair based on singling out a single industry. But equally importantly, this deal that's being cut behind the scenes, where the right of the people to have the ability to vote on the next election cycle, which our Constitution clearly requires, is going to be undermined. And all those teacher union folks that work so hard to get those petitions signed, they're getting shafted by their own people in this so-called deal that's being cut behind the scenes. It's disgraceful. Not only are we going to abandon what the Constitution once again points out we're supposed to do, but then we're going to single out an industry and give the very industry that if anybody looked at Nevada and said, who hasn't paid their fair share, it's gaming. And the teachers union, to their credit, went and petitioned to get that on the ballot, and now we're going to undermine that whole effort and allow the very people that have not paid enough consistently to get away with it once again. Now, I do realize that that's our big industry. It's also a huge campaign contributor to both parties, and lo and behold, there doesn't seem to be any connection in some people's minds, but I think to the average voter, when they see us actually undermining the initiative petition process to make these kind of backdoor deals, that's why they get a little suspicious about our behavior in these bodies. So I would urge my colleagues, number one, to make sure that those initiative petitions are allowed to go on the ballot, that the citizens of Nevada are allowed to determine if gaming is in fact paying their fair share, and that you would quit singling out an industry like mining. Yeah, there are a few profitable mines, that's true, but the vast majority of them are not. And yes, I know they've carved out a window temporarily, but anything that this legislative body does can be undone in the next legislative session. So I just feel sort of sorry for an industry that's so small and so isolated that it has virtually no friends in the building and has to go behind the scenes and cut special deals. And I'm especially discouraged that some of our people have agreed to this initiative petition removal from the ballot with some sort of an arrangement with some letters from somebody saying that there's a way to get out of that, because there isn't. If you follow the Constitution, just like we did where we had the lawsuit, 2/3 means 2/3, and the initiative petition process, if followed correctly, should be on the ballot as well. So for a variety of reasons, I urge my colleagues to vote no on Assembly Bill 495, and let's tax some of the industries that really aren't paying their fair share. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Don Darrell.
Thank you, Madam President. With the body's permission, I'm going to stand up because I have something that I have had in my office. This is actually an article from the Reno Evening Gazette from 1947, and it's something that my father saved, and I found several years ago in some papers. And in this article, it says that the Nevada public schools, the need for additional funds, and this is something that the upcoming legislature will be looking at and discussing in 1947. So now my history lesson will be just a little shorter than my colleagues, and it will just be very succinct. We have waited 74 years. We can even say 75, just to round it up, that we have waited this long to do what this article said all those years ago. So I'm asking you to support education. I'm asking you to do what's right for kids, because by doing that, we're supporting the future. We're building this state. And so I'm urging you to vote yes, because we're doing what's right for the kids.
Thank you. Senator Spearman.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to say just a couple of things. I am going to vote yes, and one of the things that has spurred me on to do this is we're coming out of a pandemic, and many of our schools were suffering before, they're suffering now. But I think that it's important for us to understand that with the additional funding, we can begin to prepare our students for the 21st century, and that's going to mean money. So I'm going to vote yes, and I don't want perfect to be the enemy of good. I think that there is a certain urgency just because we've already moved, in theory, from the 20th century to the 21st century. Now it's time to move our students into the 21st century and give our teachers and administrators the tools that they need to continue and complete the job. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Hardy.
Thank you, Madam President. Sometimes I've been accused of wondering or having people wonder what I really am going to do. So I'm going to dispel all of those worries and say I'm going to vote against this. We represent different constituencies, and we represent ourselves with our personal opinions. And yet we come together as a majority, according to our laws, even as sometimes we change those laws to people's consternation. And everyone in Nevada can feel that they have had a voice and have been represented, and that we will move forward together. We debate how much, we debate how to meet our responsibilities to our children and families, yet this is the process. And I am grateful for the process that we have, that we can meet together, talk together, represent people, and be able to come to an accord that is majority rule. And I appreciate all that that means, and I appreciate the people who are going to vote both ways on this, because I think they have done what they would like to do, what their constituents have been able to influence them to do. And so I will be voting no on this and feel confident that we still will move forward, and we will still get things done, and we'll still be able to talk to each other. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll. All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 495 is 16 in favor, 5 against. The bill, having received a 2/3 majority, is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 65, introduced by Assembly Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections, revises provisions relating to ethics and government. The people of the State of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 119, this act becomes effective July 1, 2021, into bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Orenshaw.
Thank you, President. Assembly Bill 65 amends the Nevada Ethics and Government Law by clarifying, revising, and adding to existing provisions that govern the operation, powers, functions, and duties of the Nevada Commission on Ethics, its members and staff, and any specialized or local ethics committees. Assembly Bill 65 also specifies the statutory ethical standards that apply to the conduct of current and former public officers and employees. The bill revises proceedings concerning requests for advisory opinions and ethics complaints, the issuance of opinions, and the impositions of remedies and penalties by the Commission on Ethics. In addition, Assembly Bill 65 establishes a new chapter of the Nevada Revised Statutes to be cited as the Nevada Legislative Ethics Law that sets forth standards of ethical behavior and processes for the legislative branch of government. The measure creates a Senate Commission on Ethics and an Assembly Commission on Ethics to hear complaints for ethics violations filed against members or employees of the respective houses. A joint legislative commission on ethics is established to hear complaints for ethics violations filed against officers and employees of the Legislative Council Bureau. Further, the bill provides authority for these commissions to impose the same penalties on legislators and employees of the legislative branch of government as are currently provided for violations of the ethics and government law under the Nevada revised statutes. The bill would be effective July 1st, 2021.
Thank you. Further remarks, Senator Hardy.
Thank you, Madam President. I've struggled with the definitions with ethics and willful and those kinds of things. And so I look at Section 12, the very last two paragraphs, number 1 and number 2. Any state legislator or any legislative officer as defined in Section 73 of this Act, or any legislative employee. And it goes on to say, the employment is subject to the jurisdiction of the commission pursuant to this chapter. The commission may exercise jurisdiction or authority over that person, but only for conduct arising out of the other position. And sometimes things are worded in such a way that I don't know what the other position is. And so is the Ethics Commission able to have jurisdiction over the whole life of a legislator, for instance, or just in the office of being a legislator? If that could be clarified, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Orenshaw.
Thank you, President. To you and through you to my colleague from Boulder City, Assembly Bill 65, if it passes into law, would propose to establish a new chapter of the Nevada Revised Statutes under Title 17 of the Nevada Revised Statutes to apply specifically to legislators and to have those respective commissions, the Assembly Commission, the Senate Commission, and the Joint Commission be the authority responsible for alleged ethics violations against legislators or employees of the Legislative Council Bureau. As I understand the bill, it would be one's actions as either a legislator or a legislative officer or employee of the legislature that would be subject to these ethical standards. There is a provision in the bill for someone who counsels a client before a state agency, and it's in the latter part of the bill where that is permitted. I believe it's in the 80. For a legislator to counsel a client before a state agency, which of course could be applicable to attorneys, accountants, and other legislators in their private capacity. So that is permitted, but it would not have to cause a violation of their legislative duties, and that's enumerated in the bill.
Senator Hardy.
I appreciate that, and I read that part of but as a non-lawyer, for instance, does the Legislative Commission, the Ethics Commission, have jurisdiction over a private person who happens to be a legislator who is or isn't doing something that they should or shouldn't do? Does the Ethics Commission have jurisdiction over that person?
Senator Orenshaw.
Thank you, President. To you and through you to Senator Hardy. As I understand Assembly Bill 65, as well as the provisions in the Nevada Constitution, and that would be the Assembly Bill 65, if passed into law, would create the Assembly Commission on Ethics, the Senate Commission on Ethics, and the Joint Commission on Ethics. And if Assembly Bill 65 passed into law, the Assembly Commission on Ethics would have jurisdiction over an assembly person if there's an allegation of an ethical violation. The Senate Commission on Ethics would have jurisdiction over a state senator if there's an allegation of an ethics violation. And in addition to that, even if Assembly Bill 65 does not pass, Article 6, Section Section 6 of the Nevada Constitution, the power of houses to judge qualifications, elections, returns, and members, and punishment of members. There's an inherent authority in each chamber to punish members if they believe that there's been a violation. So even without Assembly Bill 65, that authority arises from the Nevada Constitution. But this would spell it out and put the procedures and the rules in statute, and much of what is in the latter half of Assembly Bill 65 is parallel to existing law as affects state employees and public officers.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the secretary will open the roll. All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill AB 65 is 17 in favor, 4 against. The bill, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Order of the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 156, introduced by Assemblywoman Titus, etc., revises provisions governing the waiver by the Board of Regents of the University of Nevada of certain fees for the active members of the Nevada National Guard. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 to Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 2, this act becomes effective July 1, 2021. End of bill.
Thank you. Remarks on the floor. Senator Lang.
Thank you. Assembly Bill 156 authorizes active members of the Nevada National Guard who attend a school within the Nevada system of higher education and who reenlist to assign their registration and lab fee waiver to either spouse or a child in lieu of using the waiver themselves during the reenlistment period. This assignment is allowed regardless of whether or not the member used the waiver to attend school prior to reenlistment. The waiver may only be used by one eligible person during the reenlistment period for credits toward coursework for an associate degree, baccalaureate degree, or certificate, but the waiver can be reassigned if the spouse or child to whom the waiver was assigned does not use the waiver to attend school within an NHE. Finally, AB 156 requires the Adjunct General to maintain records of waivers granted, assigned, and reassigned, and certify for the Board of Regents that the waiver has been properly assigned or reassigned. This bill is effective July 1, 2021.
Thank you. Further remarks? Senator Hammond.
I'll be brief, Madam President. I rise in support of AB 156. I think it's appropriate that this particular bill be read today, all days on Memorial Day, as it actually honors those who serve our country in some capacity. This bill allows not only that person serving, but those members of their family who would like to attend. We went through a thorough reading of this particular bill, and there are a lot of great things that this bill does as that service person re-enlists every time. So it's a great thing that we're doing it on today of all days, and I hope we can all support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the secretary will open the roll. All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 156 is 21 in favor, 0 against. Bill, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Order of the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 165, introduced by Assemblywoman Hardy, etc., and Senators Buck, etc., revises provisions governing tuition for veterans. People of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 to Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 2, this act becomes effective July 1, 2021. End of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Hardy.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 165 removes the 5-year limitation on assessing tuition charges against honorably discharged veterans, thereby prohibiting the Board of Regents of the University of Nevada from assessing a tuition charge against any veteran who was honorably discharged, including any veterans who were honorably discharged more than 5 years before matriculation at a university, state college, or community college within the Nevada system of higher education, effective July 1st.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the secretary will open the roll. All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 165 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Order of the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 225, introduced by Assemblywoman Tolles, etc., and Senators Lang and Dennis, revises provision governing examinations for the licensure of teachers and other educational personnel. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 to Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 2, this act becomes effective July 1, 2021. End of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Dundaro-Loop.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 225 requires the Commission on Professional Standards in Education to consider alternative means of demonstrating competency for persons with a disability or health-related need when adopting regulations governing licensure examinations for teachers and other educational personnel. This bill is effective on July 1st, 2021.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the secretary will open the roll. All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 225 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 230, introduced by Assemblyman Miller, et cetera, and Senators Orenthal, et cetera, revises provisions relating to juvenile justice. People of the State of Nevada represented in the Senate and Assembly do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 8 under Section 8 end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 230, as amended, revises jurisdiction of the juvenile court. This bill provides that sexual assault and attempted sexual assault involving the use or threatened use of force or violence and an offense or attempted offense involving the use or threatened use of a firearm are under the jurisdiction of the juvenile court rather than the criminal justice system. In addition, the mandatory certification of a child as an adult for those offenses is eliminated, and instead the measure provides for the discretionary certification of a child for criminal proceedings as an adult for all offenses over which the juvenile court has exclusive jurisdiction. The amendatory provisions of this act apply to an offense committed on or after October 1st, 2021.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the secretary will open the roll. All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 230 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 266, introduced by Assemblywomen Brittany Miller and Anderson, revises provisions relating to class size. People of the State of Nevada represented in the Senate and Assembly do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 5 subsection 3 end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor? Senator Dennis.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 266, as amended, prohibits administrators, other licensed education personnel who may be present in a classroom but do not teach every pupil in the classroom, and teachers not actively teaching during a class period from being counted in determining the pupil-to-teacher ratio. The bill, as amended, also requires the Board of Trustees of a school district, to the extent money is available, to determine the number of job vacancies in the school district based on the number of licensed teachers that would be required to achieve the recommended pupil-to-teacher ratio, and requires that related information be posted on the Board of Trustees website. The Board of Trustees must also submit to the Legislative Committee on Education a report containing certain information about teachers participating in an alternative route to licensure. Lastly, this bill requires a person be evaluating a teacher responsible for a class exceeding ratio recommendations to award the teacher additional weight on certain specified criteria. Any additional weight awarded to a teacher must not cause the score on the criterion to exceed the maximum score that would otherwise be possible on the criterion for a teacher rated as highly effective. The bill, as amended, requires these provisions to be applied to any evaluation of the performance of an applicable teacher during the 2021-22 school year and each subsequent school year. Section 5 and Section 4.5 of this Act becomes effective upon passage and approval. Section 1 through 3 becomes effective on July 1st, 2021. Section 4 becomes effective A, upon passage and approval for the purpose of adopting regulations and performing any other preparatory administrative tasks that are necessary to carry out the provisions of this Act, and B, on January 1st, 2022 for all other purposes.
Thank you. Further remarks? Senator Buck.
Thank you so much, Madam President. I rise in opposition today because this bill actually incentivizes higher class size and makes that what the metric for evaluations as opposed to raising student achievement. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Pickard.
Thank you, Madam President. I also rise in opposition, not because I think class size isn't the problem, it is, but this isn't going to fix the class size problem. And ultimately, it works to reduce accountability. You know, we've had lots of history with accountability in all sorts of different contexts. Indeed, William Denning, back in World War II, when he helped rebuild Japan after the war, one of the principal things that he put in place was accountability in the workplace. It was built into all of the metrics. We have used that foundation to build business in an astonishing way ever since. Accountability is what drives innovation. It's what drives success. And the more we take accountability out of education, and when I say accountability, I'm talking about what matters, whether or not children are learning what they're supposed to be learning. The more we take that kind of accountability out of education, the more we cement our position in last place in this country. I oppose this bill and urge my colleagues to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Sievers-Ganser.
Thank you, Madam President. I will not be supporting this bill, and we had quite a bit of discussion during the committee hearing, and part of my opposition is because when we report numbers at a national level, there's standard definitions for the number of teachers in the classroom and how you come up with the class sizes, and this bill does not follow those types of calculations. And then also one of the issues is around the definition of who actually counts as being in the classroom. And so right now in this legislation, it contemplates that you only count full-time employees. Well, we have a lot of teachers who share classrooms or work part-time, and they won't be counted at all. And so you may have 2 half-time teachers that would equal one full-time equivalent, but based on the way this bill is written, they don't count at all. They end up being a 0 versus a half, and a half is 1. And so my concern is the numbers won't clearly represent what we do have as far as the class sizes and ratios in our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the secretary will open the roll. All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 266 is 12 in favor, 9 against. The bill, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 270, introduced by Senator O'Neill, etc., and Senator John Darrell Loop, revises provisions covering the preservation of the Nevada State Prison and Stewart Indian School. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are not. Section 10, this act becomes effective July 1, 2021. End of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator John Darrell Loop.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 270 requires the museum director of the Stewart Indian School Cultural Center and Museum to enter into an agreement with the State Land Registrar or any other state agency that receives an assignment of the buildings and grounds of the former Student Indian School to designate which buildings and grounds of the former Student Indian School under the management of the museum director are appropriate for special events, and authorize the museum director to grant special use permits to hold special events at or on the designated buildings and grounds. This bill also revises the allocation of money in the Silver State Industries Endowment Fund for administrative costs and maintenance of the modern structures, buildings, and other property of the Nevada State Prison, and eliminates the prohibition on spending or transferring the reserved principal of the fund. Additionally, the measure authorizes the sale or consumption of beer or wine at certain events held within the historic structures, buildings, and other property of the Nevada State Prison. Finally, the bill eliminates the trust fund used for the further study and development of the Nevada State Prison and requires that any money remaining in the fund on July 1st, 2021 be deposited in the endowment fund for the historic preservation of the Nevada State Prison. This bill is effective July 1st, 2021.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, secretary will open the roll. All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 270 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 315, introduced by Senator O'Neill, etc., revises provisions relating to certain public employees. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 3 of this act becomes effective July 1, 2021. End of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Lang.
Assembly Bill 315 requires an employer of of a police officer, a firefighter, or a correctional officer to make certain information available to such employees regarding mental health issues and treatment. While still employed, the employer must provide ongoing information relating to the awareness, prevention, mitigation, and treatment of certain mental health issues, including post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, and acute stress, within 3 months after the retirement of a police officer, a firefighter, or a correctional officer. The employer must provide up to 2 hours of counseling with a mental health professional to discuss the symptoms, prevention, mitigation, and treatment of such mental health issues. This bill is effective July 1, 2021.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the secretary will open the roll. All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 315 is 20 in favor, 1 absent. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 319, introduced by Assemblyman Roberts and Assemblywoman Hadagi, establishes a pilot program relating to dual credit courses. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 5, subsection 3, end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Hammond.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 319 requires the College of Southern Nevada to establish a pilot program to offer enhanced opportunities for pupils who are part of underserved communities or at risk to enroll in dual credit courses where they may earn at least 15 college credits. The bill authorizes CSN to apply for and accept any gift, donation, bequest, grant, or other sources of funding to carry out the pilot program. Finally, CSN and the Board of Trustees of a school district and governing body of a charter school that participates in the pilot program must submit a report containing certain information about the pilot program to the governor, the State Board of Education, the Board of Regents, and the Legislative Committee on Education. This bill is effective on July 1st, 2021.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the secretary will open the roll. All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 319 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 341, introduced by Assemblyman Yeager, revises provisions related to cannabis. People of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
I have amendment number 863, proposed by Senator Brooks.
Thank you. Senator Brooks.
Thank you, Madam President. I move we dispense with the reading of the amendment.
Thank you. If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Brooks.
Thank you. I move that we adopt Amendment 863 to Assembly Bill 341.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Are there any remarks? Senator Brooks.
Yes, Amendment 863 to Assembly Bill 341 adds a line to the end of Section 12.9, and it says, however, Section 12.9 also provides that the provisions of Section 12.9 do not prohibit a local government from adopting and enforcing an ordinance or rule governing the consumption of cannabis or cannabis products in a public place which is more restrictive than the regulations adopted by the board.
Thank you. Further remarks? Senator Orenshaw.
Thank you, President. I want to make reference to my earlier disclosure regarding my wife's service on the Nevada Cannabis Compliance Board pursuant to Rule 23. I'm making this disclosure. I'll be abstaining on this vote.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Assembly Bill 341, ready for final action.
Assembly Bill number 341, introduced by Assemblyman Yeager, revises provisions relating to cannabis. People of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 through Section 36.9, subsection 2, end of bill. This bill requires a 2/3 majority vote.
Thank you. Remarks? Senator Brooks.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 341, as amended, provides for the license and regulation by the Cannabis Compliance Board of cannabis consumption lounges. The bill, as amended, provides the following: designates and defines the types of cannabis consumption lounges, sets forth certain requirements for the licensure and operation of cannabis consumption lounges, including the establishment of license and renewal fees, provides provisions governing the requirements, limitations, and board issuance of written notification of eligibility for a retail cannabis lounge license, requires the board to adopt certain regulations related to cannabis consumption lounges, limits the number of licenses that can be issued to operate a cannabis consumption lounge, revises provisions relating to the consumption of cannabis in a public place or in a cannabis establishment for the purposes of authorizing a person to engage in such activities in a cannabis consumption lounge, provides the restrictions and prohibitions related to operating a cannabis consumption lounge, and establishes provisions relating to the civil liability for a person who serves, sells, or furnishes cannabis or cannabis product to another person, applies the existing excise tax on retail sale of cannabis or cannabis products to the retail sales of cannabis products by a cannabis consumption lounge, requires the board to submit a report to the legislature on or before January 1st, 2023, containing certain information regarding the effect of certain violations of the Nevada Unfair Trade Practice Act on independent cannabis consumption lounges, and makes conforming changes to reflect the addition of provisions of this act and sections 10.3, 36.1, 36.3, 36.7, and 36.9 of AB 341 as amended are effective upon passage and approval. Sections 1 to 36 inclusive and 36.5 of this bill are effective on October 1st, 2021. And I'd also add that Assembly Bill 341 clarifies that retail and independent consumption lounges are subject to all distance separation requirements unless otherwise grandfathered as part of the adult use cannabis retail store.
Thank you. Further remarks, Senator Ornschall.
Thank you, President. Same disclosure, same abstention.
Same. Thank you. Thank you. Further remarks, Senator Gokachia.
Thank you, Madam President. And with the amendment, I support Assembly Bill 341. I just wanted to make sure local government did have the authority to, by ordinance, say yes or no in public places. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll. All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 341 is 17 in favor, 3 against, 1 abstain. The bill, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. I'm sorry, a 2/3 majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Senate Bill number 355, introduced by Senate Committee on Ways and Means, makes appropriations for various purposes relating to health and education. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 8, subsection 2, end of bill.
Madam President.
There are none? Okay. Senator Cannizzaro.
May I get a 1-minute recess?
Yeah. At the call of the chair.
We really do have an amendment to this, 840.
The Senate will come to order. We are on the second agenda. We are on Order of Business 13. We are on Assembly Bill 355. Senator Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to take Assembly Bill 355 from its place on general file and place it at the general file of this agenda this legislative day.
Thank you. You have heard you have heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Assembly Bill number 358, introduced by Assemblyman Frierson, enacts provisions to improve access to Medicaid for persons released from incarceration. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows, Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 4, subsection 3 under bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Hardy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Assembly Bill 358 requires the suspension rather than termination of Medicaid eligibility for people who are incarcerated. It also requires those who are incarcerated and who were not eligible for Medicaid before being incarcerated, or those Medicaid eligibility was terminated, to be allowed to apply for Medicaid up to 6 months before their scheduled release date. The Director of the Department of Corrections must complete a Medicaid application for such offenders as soon as practicable after they are authorized to enroll, if they may be eligible for Medicaid upon release. In addition, the bill requires Medicaid eligibility and coverage for eligible offenders to be reinstated or instituted as soon as possible upon release. Finally, the bill appropriates from the general fund to the Department of Corrections $380,000 approximately in fiscal years 21-22 and $470 some odd dollars fiscal year 22-23 for personnel and other costs related to assisting offenders with eligibility assessments and applications. The provisions of the bill relating to appropriations are effective July 1st. All other are January 1st, 2022.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll. Oh, all right. Looks like everyone's voted. All right. Looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? Good. Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 358 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 363, introduced by Assemblywoman Wynn and Assemblyman Roberts, revises provisions covering transient lodging. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 to Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
I have Amendment 847, proposed by Senate Committee on Revenue and Economic Development.
Thank you. Senator Neal.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we dispense with the reading of Amendment number 847.
Thank you. If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Neal.
I move that that the Senate adopt Amendment number 847 to AB 363.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Are there any remarks? Senator Neal.
Yes, Amendment number 847 makes technical corrections to sections 23 and 23.5. It clarifies that the provisions of the bill do not apply to cities with a population of less than 25,000 that are in the county whose population is 700,000 or more. It eliminates the provisions of the bill that prohibit a city from enacting or enforcing a complete prohibition on the rental of a residential unit or a room within a residential unit for the purposes of transient lodging. It clarifies that an authorization to rent a residential unit that was issued before January 1st, 2022 continues to be valid after the date and is deemed to be an authorization issued pursuant to this bill and subject to the termination, suspension, or revocation after that date. It clarifies the civil penalties that may be imposed by a board of county commissioners and specifies that the civil penalties of are authorized pursuant to the bill in addition to other penalties. It establishes provisions to specify that if on June 1st, 2021, a Board of County Commissioners has prohibited by ordinance that the use of an accommodation facilitator, that the Board of the County Commissioner must establish a process by which owners of a residential unit that have listed or advertised with an accommodations facilitator prior to June 1st, 2021 may apply to the county for an authorization pursuant to this bill. and it changes the effective date to specify that sections 26.5 and 27 become effective upon passage and approval. Sections 1 through 26 become effective upon passage and approval for the purpose of regs, and then the rest on July 1st, 2022.
Thank you. Further remarks, Senator Hardy.
Thank you, Madam President. I have, for lack of a better word, vacillated on this, and I was very frank with people. I would just as soon prefer to kill the bill, and that wasn't going to happen. So I had other things such as a pop cap to protect 2 cities that are in my district. And in that discussion, I did not have other cities say, oh yes, we want to be out too, as much as they were willing to work with the sponsor and become neutral or supportive. And so I was singularly impressed with the graciousness that the senator from District 4 allowed me to work with a amendment in process. And I was, I've never had that so easily done where I walk in and she said, here, you can read this and you can critique it and tell me what you think. And so I was able to work with the chair of the Revenue and Economic Development in processing this. And I recognized that this was a very difficult thing to do and how to keep people happy. And I realized that with the amount of lobbying was happening, I'm not sure anybody's happy about this. I think personally that it has many flaws just because of the challenges we have taking people who have not been towing the line, I'll call it, to the rules of short-term rentals. And I appreciate the condition or the problem that the county was in when they were trying to get their arms around this particular problem. And I just regret that the cities were roped into this, and I am appreciative of the fact that the 2 cities in my district under 25,000 were exempted from this. And I appreciate, again, the ability to work with the senator from District 4. And so I will not vacillate anymore, and I will say that I will be supportive of the senator from District 4 who was the main author of this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Pickard.
Thank you, Madam President. I too struggled with this bill. There are a lot of good reasons for bringing rules on these kind of uses. I had friends who live just a couple doors down from a perennial party house, and the owner of the house is from another state, and so they found it very difficult to deal with it. Even though they live within a common interest community, that common interest community is not very effective, so they haven't been able to do anything about it. So I certainly understand the impetus to do this. The reason, however, that I can't go far enough to support this bill is because I believe that it's an intrusion into the proper operation of local government. If nothing else, local government is about local control and dealing with the local issues, and land use planning is fundamentally a local issue. No 2 neighborhoods are the same. Particularly when you get into southern Nevada, you find that a neighborhood in the northwest has a completely different feel and operation than those in the southeast. And so because ultimately, even though there are some things I really do like about this bill, I think the primary flaw that we see in it is the fact that it tells the local issues how to deal with their land uses. And fundamentally, I think that should be up to the locality to decide. So I'll be no on this measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Are there any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Assembly Bill 363, ready for final action.
Senate Bill 363, introduced by Assemblywoman Nguyen and Assemblyman Roberts, revises provision governing transient lodging. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1 through Section 27, subsection 2, end of bill. This bill requires a two-thirds majority vote.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Neal.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly, do I have to read this? I was like, okay, sorry. All right. Assembly Bill 363, as amended, establishes various requirements relating to persons who seek to provide for rent a residential unit or room within a residential unit for the purposes of transient lodging independently or using accommodations facilitator as well as accommodation facilitator itself. The effective date is July 1st, 2022, minus other provisions where it's effective upon approval and passage and approval.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the secretary will open the roll. All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 363 is 15 in favor, 6 against. The bill having received a two-thirds majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly. The following bills are ready to be immediately transmitted to the Assembly. Assembly Bill 495. Once this bill has been transmitted to the Assembly, the Senate no longer has the ability to take any further action.
Assembly Bill number 371, introduced by Assemblywoman Brittany Miller, enacts provisions governing discrimination based on race. People of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none, and, sorry about that, Section 29, this act becomes effective July 1, 2029, end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Doniate.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 371 extends provisions related to bullying and cyberbullying to additionally prohibit and address discrimination based on race. Further, among other items, the bill requires that governing body of a school district or charter school to categorize an incident of discrimination based on race as a racially motivated or hate incident. After reviewing certain reports regarding bullying, cyberbullying, and discrimination based on race, the Office for a Safe and Respectful Learning Environment within the Nevada Department of Education must make any appropriate recommendations for intervening or training. The bill also requires an evaluation of a school employee to indicate any disciplinary actions taken against the employee if he or she knowingly and willfully violated certain statutory provisions concerning bullying, cyberbullying, and discrimination based on race. Madam President, the only other thing that I wanted to mention on this bill is I've experienced discrimination in schools, both from my classmates and from administrators and teachers, and I think it's rightfully so that we enact this bill to help end that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the secretary will open the roll. All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 371 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 376, introduced by Assemblywoman Torres, et cetera, and Senators Neal, et cetera, enacts the Keep Nevada Working Act and makes various other changes relating to immigration. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 30, subsection 5, end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Neal? Senator Dennis.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 376, as amended, keeps the Nevada, creates the Keep Nevada Working Task Force within the Office of the Lieutenant Governor and prescribes its membership. In addition, the bill prescribes the duties of the task force, requires the task force to meet quarterly, requires the submission of an annual report, authorizes acceptance of gifts, grants, and donations, and requires various state, local, and other entities to assist the task force under certain circumstances. Provisions of the bill require the Attorney General's office to publish model policies on various topics and requires various agencies to either adopt policies consistent with the model provided or notify the Attorney General's office that model policies will not be adopted. Assembly Bill 376, as amended, further includes a general fund appropriation of $500,000 to the William S. Boyd School of Law of the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, for the purpose of providing pro bono immigration law services. The general fund appropriation is effective upon passage and approval.
Thank you. Oh, sorry.
I think this is the continuation, sorry.
Okay.
Sections 15 through 20 inclusive are effective upon passage and approval for the purpose of appointing members of the task force and performing any preparatory administrative tasks necessary to carry out the provisions of section 15 through 20 inclusive of and on July 1st, 2021 for all other purposes. Sections 1 through 13 exclusive and 20.3, 21, 21.5, 22, 25, 26, 27, 28, and 29 are effective July 1st, 2021. Sections 14, 20.6, 20.9, and 24 become effective July 1st, 2021 for the purpose of adopting model policies and associated preparatory work, and on July 1st, 2022 for all other purposes. Section 23 is effective on July 1st, 2021 for the purpose of performing any preparatory administrative tasks, and October 1, 2021 for all other purposes.
Thank you. Further remarks, Senator Kiefer.
Thank you, Madam President. While I certainly support some of the policies in this bill related to your office in particular and the task force that's designed to incorporate immigrants into our economy and our workforce and create jobs and ensure that there are good things happening on that front. The other provisions of the bill, particularly as it relates to the standards that are to be developed by the Attorney General and then imposed upon all other areas of the state, I think are inappropriate. And for that reason, I'll be voting no.
Thank you, Senator Kiefer. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll. All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 376 is 12 in favor, 9 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 393, introduced by Senate Assembly Committee on Judiciary, makes various changes relating to criminal justice. People of the State of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 to Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
I have amendment number 851, proposed by the Senate Committee on Finance.
Thank you. Senator Kiefer.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate Amendment number 851 to Assembly Bill 393 revises subsection 5
Did you want to move to dispense with the reading of the amendment?
You'd think this was my first time. Move that we dispense with the reading of the amendment.
Thank you. If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Kiefer.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we adopt Amendment number 851 to Assembly Bill 393.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Are there any remarks? Senator Kiefer.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Senate Amendment 851 to Assembly Bill 393 revises subsection 5 of Section 8 to reflect that the supervising officer shall notify the court of the finding, and B, the court may modify the terms and conditions of probation pursuant to subsection 1 of NRS 176A.450. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Are there any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Assembly Bill 393, ready for final action.
Assembly Bill number 393, introduced by Assembly Committee on Judiciary, makes various changes relating to criminal justice. People of the State of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 through Section 36 of Section 2 end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks? Senator Kiefer.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 393, as amended, requires the Executive Director of the Department of Sentencing Policy to assist the Nevada Sentencing Commission in carrying out certain duties. AB 393, as amended, also revises provisions, including but not limited to certain reports prepared by the Commission, reports of pre-sentence investigations, parolees and probationers, and the embezzlement of a vehicle and certain marijuana-related offenses. Additionally, Assembly Bill 393, as amended, repeals provisions requiring the Chief Parole and Probation Officer of the Division of Parole and Probation to adopt standards to assist in formulating a recommendation concerning granting of probation or the revocation of parole or probation. Finally, Assembly Bill 393, as amended, makes general fund appropriations of $75,345 in fiscal year 22 and $96,987 in fiscal year 23 to the Department of Sentencing Policy for personnel costs related to data management. Sections 1, 2, 4 to 6.5 inclusive, 31.5, 33, 34, and 36 become effective upon passage and approval. Other provisions of Assembly Bill 393 become effective July 1st, 2021.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll. All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 393 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Senate Bill number 427, introduced by Assembly Committee on Judiciary, revises various provisions relating to driving under the influence of alcohol or a prohibited substance. People, State of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 46, this act becomes effective upon passage and approval, and to bill, this bill requires a two-thirds majority vote.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Scheibel.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 427 revises various provisions relating to driving under the influence of alcohol or prohibited substance. Among other things, the bill revises provisions concerning the issuance of a restricted driver's license, revises provisions concerning the revocation of and suspension of a person's license, permit, or privilege upon the conviction of certain offenses, requires the Director of the Department of Public Safety to establish an ignition interlock program, removes the requirement that a police officer seize the driver's license or permit of a person who fails to submit to a preliminary breath test to determine the concentration of alcohol in the driver's breath, allows the court to place an offender under a system of active electronic monitoring as part of a program of treatment, revises the Nevada 24/7 sobriety and drug monitoring program, authorizes a person who commits a first violation of driving under the influence of alcohol or a prohibited substance within 7 years to be sentenced to residential confinement in lieu of imprisonment, authorizes the court to order a person to attend a program of treatment for an alcohol or other substance use disorder for certain offenses, authorizes the court to conditionally dismiss the charges against a defendant who is in a program for the treatment of veterans and for a member of the military upon his or her fulfillment of the terms and conditions of the program, authorizes the court to conditionally dismiss the charges or set aside the judgment of conviction against a defendant who was charged with certain violations upon the defendant's fulfillment of the terms and conditions of the program, and seal the records not sooner than 7 years after the charges are conditionally dismissed or the judgment of conviction is set aside, and provides that the provisions of law that prohibit a person who was convicted of a violation of driving under the influence of alcohol or prohibited substance that is punishable as a felony from being able to petition the court to seal the records relating to such a conviction must not be construed to preclude certain persons from petitioning the court for the sealing of records.
Now that's channeling your inner Madam Secretary. All right. Any further remarks? All right. Hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll. All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Senate Bill 427 is 18 in favor, 3 against. The bill having received a two-thirds majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Senate Bill number 443, introduced by Assembly Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections, revises the interim committee structure of the legislature. The people of the State of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 56, subsection 2, end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Hammond.
Thank you, Madam Secretary, or Madam President, sorry. Assembly Bill 443, as amended, provides for the creation of joint interim standing committees of the legislature, specifies the powers and duties of the joint interim standing committees, repeals various statutory committees, repeals the Advisory Commission on the Administration of Justice and the Subcommittee of the Advisory Commission, reassigns certain powers and duties of repealed statutory committees and the Advisory Commission to the joint interim standing committee, makes various other changes relating to legislative activity during the interim between regular sessions of the legislature, and requires the commission to study governmental purchasing to submit a biennial report to the joint interim standing committee on the legislative operations and elections. Assembly Bill 443 as amended includes general fund appropriations of $35,000 over the 2021-2023 biennium to support cost of interim work of the legislature, Section 56 and Sections 1 to 34 inclusive and 39 to 55 inclusive of this act become effective upon passage and approval.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll. All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 443 is 18 in favor, 3 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Madam President?
Yes. Senator Canizaro.
Thank you, Madam President. I would move to take the Senate Bill 463 and the remaining Assembly bills on general file and place them on general file for the next agenda this legislative day.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
And that concludes order business number 13 on the second agenda.
Thank you. Order business 14, concur, unfinished business.
Senate Bill number 219, introduced by Senator Canizaro, revises provisions relating to offenses. The Assembly has amended this bill with amendment number 790. Does the Senate wish to concur or not concur in this matter?
Sorry. Thank you, Senator Scheibel.
I move that the Senate concur in Assembly Amendment number 790 to Senate Bill number 219.
Thank you, Senator Scheibel moves that the Senate concur in Assembly Amendment number 790 to Senate Bill number 219. Remarks, Senator Scheibel.
This adds a member of the Assembly as a co-sponsor of the bill.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Senate bill ordered and rolled. Assembly to be notified of our action.
Senate Bill number 254, introduced by Senator Neal, revises provisions relating to discrimination in housing. The Assembly has amended this bill with amendments number 610, 746, 801. Does the Senate wish to concur or not concur in these matters?
Thank you. Senator Dondero-Lupe.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the Senate concur in Assembly Amendment 610, 746, and 801 to Senate Bill 254.
Thank you. Senator Dondero-Lupe has moved that the Senate concur in Assembly Amendment number 610, 746, and 801 to Senate Bill number 254. Remarks, Senator Dondero-Lupe.
Thank you, Madam President. Amendment 610 to Senate Bill 254 deletes Section 33.5 regarding discrimination based on source of income. Amendment 746 limits the applicability of Section 33 to 1, any dwelling owned by a natural person and contains 5 or more units, and 2, any dwelling owned by a corporation or other business entity. And Amendment 801 removes dwellings owned by a corporation or other business entity from provisions contained in Section 33.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Senate bill ordered and rolled. Assembly to be notified of our action.
Senate Bill number 386, introduced by Senate Committee on Commerce and Labor, revises provisions relating to certain businesses. The Assembly has amended this bill with amendment number 817. Does the Senate wish to concur or not concur in this matter?
Thank you. Senator Canizaro.
Thank you, Madam President. I would move that the Senate concur in Assembly Amendment 817 to Senate Bill 386.
Thank you. Senator Canizaro has moved that the Senate concur in Assembly Amendment number 817 to Senate Bill number 386. Remarks, Senator Canizaro.
Thank you, Madam President. This amendment exempts small businesses that employ or had employed as of March 12, 2020, less than 30 people.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Senate bill ordered and rolled. Assembly to be notified of our action.
Senate Bill number 420, introduced by Senators Canizaro, et cetera, and Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson and Assemblyman Frierson, revises provisions relating to health insurance. The Assembly has amended this bill with amendment number 833. Does the Senate wish to concur or not concur in this matter?
Thank you. Senator Ratty.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the Senate concur in Assembly Amendment number 833 to Senate Bill number 420.
Thank you, Senator.
And defer to my colleague to my right to do the statement.
Senator Ratty has moved that the Senate concur in Assembly Amendment number 833 to Senate Bill number 420. Remarks, Senator Canizaro.
Thank you, Madam President. Amendment number 833 revises Senate Bill 420 by requiring the public option be made available as a qualified health plan through the Silver State Health Insurance Exchange to natural persons who reside in Nevada and are otherwise eligible, and for direct purchase as a policy of individual health insurance by any natural person who resides in Nevada. In addition, Amendment number 833 requires any health carrier, person, or entity with which the Director of the Department of Health and Human Services contracts to administer the public option, or the Director, if he or she administers it directly, to take certain actions. It specifies that enteral formulas must be covered by certain health insurers, include formulas that are ingested orally, and requires the Public Employees Benefits Program to cover such enteral formulas. It revises provisions related to expanding Medicaid coverage for pregnant women and appropriates money from the state general fund to the Silver State Health Insurance Exchange to pay for the cost of carrying out the requirements of the bill.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Senate bill ordered and rolled. Assembly to be notified of our action.
Senate Bill number 428, introduced by Senate Committee on Finance, makes appropriation to Nevada Highway Patrol Division, Department of Public Safety for the replacement of vehicles and motorcycles and certain equipment. The Assembly has amended this bill with amendment number 832. Does the Senate wish to concur or not concur in this matter?
Thank you. Senator Brooks.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the Senate concur in Assembly Amendment number 832 to Senate Bill number 428.
Thank you. Senator Brooks has moved that the Senate concur in Assembly Amendment number 832 to Senate Bill number 428. Remarks? Senator Brooks.
Yes, Amendment number 832 removes Section 3 from the bill.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Senate shall be notified of our, Assembly shall be notified, Senate bill is enrolled, Assembly to be notified of our action. Motion carries.
Assembly Bill number 440. Madam President, the Conference Committee concerning Assembly Bill 440, consisting of the undersigned members, has met and reports it has agreed to recommend Amendment number 748 of the Senate be concurred in and has agreed to recommend the bill be further amended as set forth in Conference Amendment number 1, which is attached to and hereby made a part of this report. Signed Senators Harris, Scheibel, Settlemeyer, Assemblyman Yeager, Wynn, and Krasner. End of report.
Thank you. Senator Harris.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we adopt the Conference Committee report concerning Assembly Bill 440.
Thank you. Senator Harris has moved to adopt the Conference Committee report concerning Assembly Bill 440. Remarks? Senator Harris.
The parties agreed. It's a good amendment.
Good. Okay, then. Further remarks? All right. Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Bill ordered and rolled. Assembly to be notified of our action. I will now appoint Senators Scheibel, Harris, and Settlemeyer as a conference concerning Senate Bill number 369.
And that concludes order of business number 14 on the second agenda.
Thank you. Order business 16, remarks from the floor. The following bills are ready to be immediately transmitted to the Assembly. Assembly Bills number 65, 156, 165, 225, 230, 266, 270, 315, 319, 341, 358, 363, 321, 371, 376, 393, 427, 443. Once these bills have been transmitted to the Assembly, the Senate no longer has the ability to take any further action. Further remarks? Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Madam President. I am very, very disturbed by the what's going on behind the scenes with the passage of AB 495. The Clark County Education Association got over 200,000 signatures to ensure that Initiative Petition 1 was placed on the ballot. This was submitted to the Secretary of State. It was challenged in the courts by the Nevada Resort Association, and the court said the petition was fine. The Secretary of State said it was fine. And part of the deal, as I understand it, is that we are going to figure out a way to take Initiative Petition 1 off of the ballot and deny all those people from the Education Association the right to vote. What is the initiative petition? It's about raising the gross gaming tax on gaming, because obviously we're not going to do it through this through this building in this chamber. We have absolutely passed the buck. Now, what I'm most disturbed about is what our Constitution requires. Okay? We don't have the right to make backroom deals and take initiative petitions off. Here's what the Constitution, Article 19, says. The people reserve to themselves the power to propose by initiative petition statutes and amendments to this Constitution and to enact or reject them at the polls. It says the Secretary of State has 30 days before the session to verify it. That's all been done. And here's what it says. If the statute or amendment to a statute is rejected by the legislature, or if no action is taken thereon within 40 days, the Secretary of State shall submit the question of approval or disapproval of such statute or amendment at the next succeeding general election. If a majority of the voters voting on such question at such election votes approval of such statute or amendment to a statute, it shall become law. That is in the Constitution to precisely ensure that some exceptionally powerful industry like gaming cannot intimidate this body so severely that they can't get a reasonable tax passed. This is what the people want. This is what the Constitution requires. And if, in fact, there is some sort of backroom deal where they're going to try to pull IP1 off of the next ballot, as it is required in this, it's a disgraceful violation of all of us swearing an oath to uphold the Constitution of the state of Nevada. And frankly, the gaming people have for decades failed to pay their fair share. The amount of money, by the way, that this IP would raise for education is none other than $640 million a biennium. So for all of you that were talking about the need to fully fund education, may I suggest that we encourage this IP to go forward so that gaming can start to pay their fair share? It's much more convenient to try to single out some little tiny industry that doesn't have the clout that the Nevada Resort Association and the gaming people do in Nevada. But this is just simply wrong. This is why the initiative petition exists in the Constitution, is because the people are afraid that sometimes we are too intimidated by big industries, and they have had 200,000 people sign to get that on the ballot. So I would urge my colleagues to make sure, and I sincerely pray that I'm wrong. And if I am, and if this ballot initiative is going forward, my apologies. But my understanding is part of the deal was to essentially force mining to pay this and take gaming off the hook. So I urge my colleagues, if you really cared about education, to ensure that IP1 ends up on the ballot. And I would bet the teachers and the citizens of Nevada would gladly support raising a very reasonable tax on gaming and add another $640 million into the coffers of the education world, which is, by everybody's testimony earlier, grossly underfunded in Nevada. So I would urge my colleagues to obey the Constitution and make sure that IP1 goes forward. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. I would like to amend the previous statement that I made. Assembly Bill 341 is not reprinted yet, so it will not be immediately transmitted at this time. Thank you. Further remarks? Senator Cannizzaro?
Madam President, may we get a brief 1-minute recess?
1 minute recess at the call of the chair.
Madam President, also, could I have my remarks added to the record today? Thank you.
Of course. They're added, Senator. Yeah. We are back from break. We are on the second agenda. We are on order of business 16. Senator Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Madam President. I would move to go back to general file, and rather than send Senate Bill 463 to our next general file, I would like to have that matter considered on general file at this time.
Thank you. Order of business 13.
Senate Bill number 463, introduced by Senate Committee on Finance, makes appropriation to Department of Education for transfer to certain charter schools. People, State of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 2, this act becomes effective upon passage and approval. End of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Hammond.
Thank you, Madam President. Sorry, you had me asleep when you went back to order of business 13. Senate Bill 463 provides a general fund appropriation of $3.8 million to provide funding to certain charter schools over the 2021-23 biennium that have the potential to receive less funding under the pupil-centered funding plan than the calculated hold harmless threshold amounts for the respective charter schools. Senate Bill 463 clarifies this is a one-time appropriation to enable such charter schools to transition fully to the pupil-centered funding plan. Senate Bill 463 is effective upon passage and approval.
Thank you. Further remarks? Senator Severs-Gansert.
Thank you. I want to thank our fiscal staff and my colleagues for working on Senate Bill 463. This money is extremely important to charter schools, and we wanted to make sure they were made whole as we start implementing the new funding plan. So thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right. Hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll. Thank you. Looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the secretary will close the roll. The vote on Senate Bill 463 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order of the Assembly.
And that concludes order of business number 13 on the second agenda.
Thank you. Order of Business 16. The following bill is ready to be immediately transmitted to the Assembly. Senate Bill number 463. Once this bill has been transmitted to the Assembly, the Senate no longer has the ability to take any further action. Further remarks? Senator Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I would move that the Senate stand in recess until the call of the chair.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.